All right, guys, so pretty straightforward. I just wanted to go over a couple of rod and reel setups that we used during the course of the episode with Christian. But just in general, I mean, when we're fishing inshore waters in Florida, for that matter, anywhere in the Southeast, even in the Northeast, I mean, these rods and reels, these combinations can do really well inshore. Go-to for everything inshore is this size rod and reel. This is a Clash 2 with a 4,000 size reel. Clash 2 is Penn's, I would say, lighter, more precise, kind of less of a workhorse. You know, the Spin Fisher is definitely more of a workhorse reel. This is more of a precise piece of equipment. It's just lighter. It's easier to throw again and again and again inshore, especially when you're using artificial lures like this engaged twitch shad. It's not going to burn you out, and that's a really nice thing to be able to do. And the 4,000 is kind of like the, general purpose size reel. I mean, it's good for everything. Even, we'll catch tarpon up to 30, 40 pounds on these things. Big snook, big sea trout, big redfish, day in and day out. 4,000 size reel is great. You can go lower. A lot of guys do. Longer the rod, longer the casts, and it tends to be a little bit more sensitive the longer the rod. I do like a 7-foot rod for throwing lures inshore. The braid that I have on this is actually 20 pound. It's Spiderwire Ultra Cast. So general purpose, inshore, light tackle, lure throwing rod, and then we go up in size. I mean, believe it or not, a lot of people laugh when I have this on the boat when we're fishing the river. I think a lot of people, or inshore, they think of inshore fishing, smaller fish, but that's just not true. The lure that I have on this is a Spool Tech lure. This is great for throwing in inlets or in deeper water at night, off the beach for big tarpon. Big snook, obviously love these things. This lure right here is one of the lures in the industry that is just as good, if not better, than like a conventional bucktail jig, which is legendary for snook fishing and things at night. Guys in South Florida love these lures, but they're usable all the way through the country. I mean, striper fishing off the beach, anything will eat that. I mean, they come in all different sorts of colors. Obviously, this one kind of mimics like a silver mullet, and this one too has the longer tail on it, which I like. But if you look at it, as soon as you get the fish, obviously the trademark for this lure is the fact that when you do get a bite, it engages this cable, if you will, with a crimp on one end, secured to the lure on the other end. And so if, let's say for example, you're stuck in bluefish, they're not just going to chew your tail off as you're reeling in the lure, which is really, really nice. They do make separate tails for these things, which is great too, because it's good to bring some on the boat just in case sort of deal. Like kingfish, if I'm throwing off the beach for tarpon in the summertime, it's oftentimes in and around kingfish. So if I get cut off, I'll just switch a tail out. Chances are pretty good though, once he gets this thing in his mouth and he gets some distance, some 12 inches between him and the lure, he's not gonna take my tail off, which is really great. It's a lot of what we do is a matter of opinions too. I mean, everybody has their own way of fishing. And I think wherever you are and whatever fish you're going after kind of has a certain rule of thumb that you try and follow. Now, if I'm fishing for big fish, I mean, big snook, big tarpon, chances are, big snook especially, the bigger the bait, the bigger the fish. And even if I have a bait that's this big, whether it's a lure made by Spool Tech, Band of Anglers, Engage Lures, whatever have you, if it's a big lure, you're gonna catch a big fish on it. You heard people say that before. It's 100% true. Same thing with live bait. If you're using live bait, the bigger the bait, we'll use baits that are the size of my forearm. And big hooks to combine with that bait, and big leaders. A lot of people think, snook are leader shy and things like that, but we'll go out and use, if we're fishing big lures and for big fish or big bait, we'll use 80 to 100 pound. You don't have to go out there and use leader line. We don't have to go out there and use fluorocarbon all the time. Fluorocarbon's great, it's expensive. So I think that's a lot of the dissuading factor for people choosing mono versus fluoro, but mono works just well. My favorite, I'm a big light tackle guy. I mean, I love catching fish on light tackle, but here's the deal. When you're fishing around structure and you're fishing for snook, they're not patient. They're not cooperative. They're not gonna take their time for you. And a lot of the times you have to be able to pull them out of that structure. That's where they live. They don't get big and fat by just risking their lives and coming out in the open and get eaten by porpoise or caught by anglers all the time. They're in the hardest to get places, and you have to have the heaviest, biggest, toughest rods and reels to pull them out of there. I'm confident. The great thing is especially when I have clients and things, I know that if we hook up to a good one, the forgiveness factor, if a fish wraps us around a piling or goes through an entire dock, a lot of the times we'll actually be able to pull him back around pilings and things. And normally if you're using a size 4,000, 3,000, 2,000 size reel, you're never going to be able to have a chance. Be responsible, be responsible anglers. And if you're fishing for big fish, do not tire them out. It kills me when people say, yeah, I hooked a tarpon, an 80-pound tarpon on a 4,000 size reel and fought him for 2 hours. Be responsible, use the appropriate size rods and reels, go out there with a variety of rods and reels, and you guys will have a great time out on the water.